The transport sector is responsible for approximately 25% of the global greenhouse emissions. 45% of the countries in the world, actually, the emissions is the largest source of emissions. So this is really big. And one of the companies in the forefront of this transition to get these energy-related emissions down and from the transport sector is Volvo Cars. So that's why I'm very delighted to have Vanessa Butani with me here on Zoom. Vanessa is Head of Global Sustainability of Volvo Cars. So great to have you with us on our show, Vanessa. How are you today? I think you're muted, so would you unmute?
How's that?
Here we go. Now we can hear you.
Nice to see you, Katarina. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. So, Vanessa, what are the main challenges when it comes to sustainability and also the opportunities, of course, from the transportation sector's perspective?
Thanks. Sure. I mean, we at Volvo Cars, we believe the future is electric, right? But we don't operate in a vacuum. We're really at a pivotal moment to change the course of history right now. And the world really can't afford to see electrification fail. Science is clear, 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold is critical for avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. And like you said, the transport industry accounts for a big part of that, about 1/4 of global emissions, right? So electrification really is key in order to reach our climate targets. I think it was quite clear in that little video that we had just before we started here as well, right? Some of the challenges we see, though, is the fact that the rollout of charging infrastructure has been slower than expected, right? And there's a withdrawal of government incentives in some markets, and there's additional uncertainties created by the recent tariffs on electric vehicles in various markets, right? So, I mean, what we see, for example, is that in the EU, 61% of all charging points are in only 3 member states. That's the Netherlands, that's Germany, and that's France. And the remaining share is scattered across the 24 member states, which covers 80% of the EU surface area. And only 8 of those states have incentives today as well to support the development of EV infrastructure, be it private or public. In the US, the story is the same. California has about 14,000 charging stations, while Ohio has less than 1,400. But then you actually look at China, right, which has well over half of the global electric vehicle sales, accounting for 85% of the world's fast chargers and 60% of the slow chargers. So we have disparities across the world. We announced our decision to go fully electric in 2021 at Volvo Cars. This was ahead of legislation. But, you know, like I said, electrification is not just about us changing the propulsion system, right? We have 5 electric cars on the market. We have 5 more coming before the end of 2030. But we need a supportive ecosystem around us to make this happen, right? It means the charging infrastructure, the deployment of more renewable electricity, reinforcement of the energy grids, and so regulations, investment, and incentives are key here. We have an important role to play in the green transition, and we want to be part of the solution and not just part of the problem.
Thank you, Vanessa. When we met in New York in September, we talked a bit about the revision of the climate goals of Volvo Cars. How has this been received, and what does it entail?
Us, we have had to reduce our ambitions a little bit, but as I said at the beginning, right, we are committed to going all electric. So we've revised our ambitions slightly from being 100% electric in 2030. We've now said we'll be 90 to 100% electrified, which means all cars with a cord, be that a battery electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, right? But it doesn't change our trajectory, right? We're still going electric, and to me, it just emphasizes the fact that we really don't operate in a vacuum. We need all of the other actors in the ecosystem to participate here so that we also can reach the ambitions that we have.
Thank you, Vanessa. I've heard you say before that it's important to build where you source and source where you build. What can you tell us about this, please?
Of course. So, I mean, with the current external environment that we're in and many uncertainties around, it's more important than ever that we build resilient supply chains, right? So we have a saying at Volvo Cars, we aim to build where we sell and we source where we build, where it makes sense, right? So in that spirit, we continue to grow our investments in Europe, both with manufacturing and with R&D, all towards electrification. So this includes our existing plants in Sweden and Belgium, as well as the construction of our new EV-only plant in Košice in Slovakia, and a gigafactory in our hometown of Gothenburg. We have a factory in Charleston, as well as a tech hub in Poland, which build on those we already have in Stockholm and in Lund in Sweden. So I can talk about also with tech and sustainability, right? We work with like-minded progressive partners and organizations to make sure that we are addressing the emissions from the most carbon-intensive areas of EV production, which are steel, aluminum, and batteries, right? Those are very big for us. And an example of that is how we work with SSAB, the steel company, to develop near zero emission steel for the automotive industry. And we hope to have this in our vehicles by 2026.
Thank you, Vanessa. So when it comes to sustainability, what else do you do? I know you work a bit with biodiversity too, correct?
Exactly. So we know electrification is our way forward, right? But it's not enough. We have a triple planetary crisis, right? We're looking at climate change, at pollution, at biodiversity loss. So we really need to take a holistic approach to sustainability. And here we go beyond just looking at CO2. So trying to, like you said, address our biodiversity impacts and also work with ocean and coastal health. Nature, is our greatest ally in the fight against climate change, right? So we need to take a holistic approach going beyond CO2 and look at also managing our trade-offs and our risks. So we address our biodiversity footprint. We contribute to restoring ocean and coastal health. And we want to avoid and reduce our negative impacts on biodiversity throughout our value chain as well, while we also make a positive contribution towards nature restoration and regeneration. Our long-term ambition is to be net positive across our value chain and contribute to a nature positive future. So we need to understand our footprint, which is some work that we're doing as well to really see what is the total effect that we have and the impact that we have on species and ecosystems. So for example, we've worked with preservation of ecological status, for example, in building this Kosice plant that I mentioned, where we've established new bird habitats for birds there. And we're also looking closer to home as well. We come from Gothenburg. This is a coastal city. So coastal ecosystems are close to our heart. And we're working with the University of Gothenburg with our Volvo for Life Fund, where we will be working to preserve eelgrass restoration efforts on the west coast of Sweden, and also looking at where we are active in southern China and working with the SEE Foundation to restore coastal wetlands there.
Thank you very much, Vanessa.
We know the future is electric, but we know that we need technology to help us to get there, and we know that we need to look beyond CO2 as well.
Thank you, Vanessa. The examples here with working with the ocean perspective they're truly inspiring. So what are your hopes here for the COP? I mean, we're just a few days away from the end of it, and from your perspective, from Volvo Cars' perspective, what are your hopes?
I really hope that we can come together to create some kind of a commitment to a future that is going to be great for all of us, right? And I think it's a lot of the things that we've talked about here today, using technology to help us to drive change, but also committing to the commitments we've made with governments, in policy and legislation, so that we can make it easier for companies also to drive the change that we need here. I really hope that we can get a commitment to a change and a future that will be more stable and successful for all of us.
Thank you, Vanessa. The revision of the NDCs, I mean, that's very, very, very much, that's what's been talked a lot about here, coming up to the COP in Belém next year in Brazil. And there's also been quite a lot of discussions here on our broadcast about the collaboration and the importance of the companies aligning of their work with the governments when it comes to the NDCs. So what can you say about this from the Volvo Car perspective?
I mean, from our perspective, that's exactly it. Like I said at the beginning, right? We don't operate in a vacuum. We need to work together, and it's not, it's companies, it's the researchers, it's the NGOs, but it's for sure the establishment of the infrastructure around to drive the electrification that we need to change the transport industry, which has, like I said, the 20%, 25% impact on global emissions. And that's a big one that we need to tackle. So we're ready. We want to do that, but we do need to do that together. And I think we spoke about that previously as well with the idea of value networks, right? Working together from different companies, different industries in the value chain outside to make sure that we can find a win-win situation for all of the actors there to push forward. And I think it is those kinds of discussions that we need to be having that we're not as good at perhaps, but need to continue to do.
Well, this is truly inspiring, Vanessa. Thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast. And we're going to move on and talk to some more people about this very important topic, transportation, that is such a big emitter of greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. So thank you for doing your part, and thank you for joining us at this broadcast. Bye-bye, Vanessa Butani. Thank you.
Thank you.